John, I think we're still waiting for Marion Porterfield, right? Or unless, Marion, are you on?
No, she's not on. Just give her a few minutes, please.
Yep.
Marion's on.
All right. John, can we start then? Are you okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'm going to call to order the Public Service and Utilities. We have 5 items for discussion this evening. The first is the contract for the City Hall re-roofing to Pulver Roofing Incorporated. Mr. Welland, can I call on you, please, Chris?
Hold on, I'll get my video going. Good evening.
We have a video. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I kept the collar shirt on straight till 7 o'clock just for everyone.
You're looking good, my friend.
So what this is the award of contract, as it says, to a company, Pulver Roofing. They're out of Utica. This is for the replacement of the existing roof at City Hall. The roof at City Hall is a built-up roof with a stone ballast. It has been a troublesome roof over the last couple of years. That's why we put it in the capital plan last year to put out. It is now out. We're going to be putting it in with a ballastless roof, so the stone will be gone. We're also going to address the catwalk area, which is the area just inside the balustrades that you see from the road. The company Pulver, we are not familiar with them. However, my assistant engineer did call their references. They have done municipal work. They have done work for the state. All of their references were in line. And we have no reason to think that the company will not be able to do a great job for the city. So I would have moved this forward. This is well within budget. And what we've talked about was if we can keep the money underneath and keep it there with regards to change orders, we would have possibly enough money to do some painting of the clock tower, as the clock tower has started to also show its age. But one project at a time. This is for the Pulver Roofing, and no objections for me on this.
Chris, I do have a couple of questions here. I mean, obviously, this low bid here is well under $100,000 plus from the 2 other bidders. How do you feel? What's justifying that major difference in the bids here?
That's the thing. That's why we called, Ed. We called to try to find out what their differences is. I mean, the issue that we're having is that, you know, I don't want to say that their pencil was sharper than others, but we did not get any kind of we walked through, we talked with the architect that was on this with Synthesis, and we asked them if there was anything they might have overlooked, such as the removal of the balustrades and some of the restrictions. They did not say that they had anything that they omitted. And, you know, it's similar in a way, if you recall, to, we had an asbestos abatement contract that was at the police station for their firing range. And we got a bid that was $100,000, and we got a bid that was $195,000, then $210,000, then $220,000. And we met with that contractor 4 times to make sure they didn't miss anything. And, you know, they got the job done for $105,000 and never complained. So, I mean, I don't have an answer for you. That's why we called all the references. We called the state. They did work with OGS. They've done work in Utica. You know, and I can't find the hole, I guess, without getting into it. I don't know how to assess why they came in at the number that they came in at, but they were comfortable with it. And I have, you know, we called to make sure that there were no reports of coming in low and then change ordering us to death and then ending up high. But
And I think that's a concern that I'm going to have too, and I'm sure fellow colleagues here, is those change of work orders that could continuously come in. And of course, we're going to be talking about that later on with the affirmative action plan that we're talking about, where the change of work orders, anything over 5% of the contract comes back to the council. I don't think we're going to have enough time to approve that and call for a public hearing and vote on it, but Chris, I appreciate your follow-up and checking into the references. I think that's very, very important. And you know what, boy, if we can get it for $100,000 less, I think it's going to be a great deal, and maybe we'll get some more business from these folks. Any other questions from any of the colleagues?
Mr. Kosher.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wallen, you mentioned you reached out to the references. Are those previous clients that they had worked for?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? All right. Hearing none, I need a motion to move this.
I'll move it.
All right. Ms. Patrick, second by Mr. Palmetti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
Actually, that wasn't
It's me, Ed. I'm on it.
I've got Carmel and John on here.
I thought it was efficiencies.
I have Miss
no
Patrick.
wonder.
Well, that made that.
Okay.
Am I right?
Public Service and Utilities is me,
Okay.
Carmel, and Ed.
There
I thought
you
it was
go. Never
administrative
doubt your chairman. Never doubt your chair. will you? Carmel,
Come on, guys.
this evening.
All
Are you
right,
still
so
with us?
I'm in on the motion there.
I
Okay.
know you've been very quiet tonight, so I don't know if you've been good or not. All right. Okay, very good. So we have a motion by Ms. Patrick, second by John Palmetti. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. Item number 2, mechanical and chemical tree extractation system for Ecological Services Incorporated. Chris, again, please.
yep. So this is a something a little bit new, something I haven't done yet at the city. They call this simply mill and fill, well, drill and fill, I believe, where you are going to have a contractor come into the Woodlawn Preserve, also known as the Schenectady Pine Barrens, and drill holes and select trees in the Woodlawn Preserve and then fill them with a type of product that kills the tree in its entirety and the root structure. And this is a phase 1 contract. Phase 2 was to be the harvesting of the trees. We did not get any bids for that. We're working with the purchasing department on how we can make the bid a little easier for them. I think there was an issue with bonding and tree companies having to get bonds for that kind of work. But this is phase 1. This apparently kills the root system, which allows the companies to come in. You know, that this is a joint project with the Albany Pine Bush to create habitats similar to in the Albany Pine Bush for lupin, so that we can restore some of the Woodlawn Preserve / Schenectady Pine Barrens into more of an original Pine Barren Preserve. Overall, I think this is going to be, you know, this is over 10 acres of tree work. Not all trees are going to go, but a large amount of trees at the end of the project will go to create similar to what you would see on each side of I-90, which is a Pine Barren environment. So this is to chemically apply a treatment to certain trees in the pine bush, and we'll be working on this hand in hand with the Albany Pine Bush.
Yeah, Chris, and thank you again. And Albany Pine Bush have been great partners with the Woodlawn Preserve Group, with Janet Chen and folks. They've been talking about this project for some time now. And again, appreciate, Chris, your interest in this and working with both of those groups. And again, full support from both of those folks from Albany and from Schenectady. Any questions on this? Go on, Chris. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to just second what you said is both the Albany Pine Bush and Janet Chen and everyone really have been working great. The Albany Pine Bush is a very professional organization. They've lended assistance to us every step of the way when it comes to things. And I think Janet's been very appreciative. I've been very appreciative. And, you know, we're gonna make a lot of great changes in the next year or two over in that preserve.
Great. Thank you much. Any questions or comments from the colleagues?
Yeah, Mr. Kosher.
Sir, go ahead.
Just quick question. Are these going to be near these trees that are going to come down or be killed near trails or anything? Because I could see this potentially having a safety issue. Maybe they'll be marked or something. Or
Yeah, they'll definitely be around some of the interior trails. I can talk with them about, what happens. Are you concerned a tree would be dying and then a branch could fall on something? Or
yeah, or somebody.
yeah, that's what it. Yeah, I can ask them how that works if we rope off areas or close certain trails in there to kind of keep the area clear.
Sounds good. Otherwise, I think it's a great program.
Very good. Any other comments or concerns? Need a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll
John?
second.
Very good. Ms. Patrick, all in favor, say aye. Thank you. And item number 3 is a change order to the City of Schenectady Street Improvement Program for the fall of 2019. Community Development Block Grant funded projects. Again, Chris, you're up again, sir.
Of course. So, but this is a change order. I want to point out initially, right at the beginning, that this change order is here and in front of you now due to some of the work that you guys have been doing in changing of the purchasing policy. Typically, change orders like this would be, I wouldn't say at my sole discretion, but would be between the city engineer, the commissioner of public service, OGS, and the mayor, and we go through these things if we thought they were in the best order. But this change order will increase the total changes for this contract by over the 25%, which is the threshold that you would like to see things come before council. So that's why it's here. I did this for the Union Street project as well with the pavers, but that wasn't because of the 25%. That was because I wanted to make sure that the council was informed and educated and had a vote on that, because I didn't think that project was something that should have been done with just a change order given the scope and the kind of approval of the plan. But this is, in my opinion, this is the first one under the new purchasing policy. So what this is we have a allocation of CDBG money, some left over from last year and then this year's allocation. It's quite a bit. We have probably north of $500,000 in our kitty. And the idea is that usually how we do these projects is we put a project out, a large paving project out in the spring with a combination of state, local, and CDBG federal money. And then we divvy up these projects and we pay for them under different shares, and that's an internal thing. This year, we have yet to do a paving project. I'm anticipating we may do one in the fall. Right now, we only have CHIPS and CDBG funding. And the issue is that while CHIPS is reimbursable all the time, due to the federal fiscal year, they're asking that we draw down this money by the beginning of September. So that makes putting a bid out, awarding, and getting bills extremely difficult in the environment. So in sitting with development and the mayor and staff, we thought about if we could take a big bite out of it and get some work done efficiently. So we're proposing to do a complete streets project on Lincoln Avenue, which is a short block in poor condition between both the elementary school and the Miracle on Craig Street facility, and then some work around Jerry Burrell Park, which would be complementary to the upcoming Jerry Burrell Park investment project. And then that work would kind of kick off what we do with that project. And I mean, essentially that is it. There's not a lot of paving involved. It's more of a sidewalk, curbing, facelift project. We will pave the streets, the select blocks when we're done, but I'm trying to really avoid a ton of paving because paving costs are down right now because of the oil cost prices. So it'd be more beneficial if I can try to squeeze out a paving project towards the end of the summer and take advantage of those low prices. So that's kind of the long-winded version of what this change order is. We really just want to make some improvements. We want to start drawing down on that money by the end of the federal fiscal year. And given all of the restrictions and everything that's going on and our times, this was the most efficient way to do that.
All right, Chris, thank you. And is Kristen on by any chance? Kristen, are you there by any chance? Are you online? Hello? Kristen, are you still with us?
If you're there, you might want unmute yourself, please.
Chris, can you do it, John? Can you unmute? I think she was caller 3.
Was on the other executive session.
I don't know. Because I have a question to her, obviously, or even, I don't know if Mr. Wellen can answer this. There you go. Yes, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So, Mr. Wellen just talked about these were additional funds, or these were funds that were not used from CDBG?
Correct. Yep.
Who gives the official approval to reallocate these funds? Is it your office? I thought the city council is the discretionary as to delegating CDBG funding.
This isn't reallocating funds. This is funds that were put towards public works in our action plan for streetscape work. So there's nothing being reallocated. It's just funds that were not spent down due to delays in paving contracts last year and also to COVID this spring. So we just have money that we have yet to draw down. And I think just the way it's being structured this time, and Chris can clarify, is as a change order. But this is not reallocating any funds. This is funds that was meant for this purpose. So it's just, that's the clarification there.
All right, so to continue on that, so if we do have additional funding that was not used by agencies or most likely the city, how are those funds reallocated then, or to other agencies or to different projects? Who oversees that portion, Kristen?
Right now, we're not talking about reallocating funds.
Understood.
These are funds that are part of a project that's, you know, what its intention is for. If we were to reallocate funds to a different program, the process is that it would be a substantial amendment is anything over 100,000, and that would go through the review process. There'd have to be a comment period and approvals associated with those changes. But that's not what this is.
All right, so, but again, to my point here is if we have funds that were not used, let's just say in 2018-19 or 19 and 20 appropriations, and those agencies or the city did not use those dollar amounts, let's just say, I'm just picking the thing, we want to put 50,000 to Habitat for Humanity. Who gives that okay to give those additional funds to those agencies?
I'm not sure what you're asking. That's not what we're talking about here, and that's not what's being presented.
Understood, but I'm just, because again, I think Mr. Whalen started out that these funds were being reallocated for this project. I believe that's how he started out this whole comment here. These funds were being reallocated.
No, these funds are part of our public works funding that goes to engineering each year. And because of certain delays, we need to draw them down. They need to be spent. And so that's what the plan is.
All right. So, Mr. Multivaran, Mr. President, I'd like to put this on a committee for 2 weeks from now to discuss exactly what I'm talking about here. How are additional funds or funds that were not used from prior CDBG years, how are those dollars reallocated to agencies or departments? And what's the procedure on that? Because I believe that the city council has the right to do that, not individual department heads or the mayor's office. And I want to make sure we can clarify that in 2 weeks.
Mr. Kosha, if I may add, can we get a list of all the unused funds that is available for assignment?
I guess she's going to want that in writing for next week. So let's put that in writing.
I will. Yes, I'm just making it public here, and we will put that in writing and send it to the mayor's office.
Very good, for information from them. All right. Well, very good.
Mr. Kosher, I have a question.
Yes. Is that Ms. Prazo? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. Mr. Wallen, you mentioned sidewalks. Is the sidewalk work in front of any residential property?
Is the sidewalk in front of residential property? Yes, on Lincoln it is.
So we're giving free sidewalks to street when other homeowners are having to pay, correct?
Correct. It's a different program. I mean, we're talking about making investments into communities that are in the NRSA district. And Mr. Carr, we just go back just for one thing. So one of the reasons that we're in the situation that we're in is Kristen and I are really trying to focus on the NRSA area. To go back even as recently as 3 years ago, how CDBG funds were allocated and spent was, it was just another fund source. It was considered almost like chips. We would pave a road, and if the road was in a census district that was applicable, which is 80% of the city, we would take those paving funds and we'd put them over there, and that's how we drew down CDBG. But about 2.5 years ago, what we found out was that they really wanted us to make more of an investment in the community and a more focused investment. Hence, Kristen's really been working with me on this NRSA area, which is the city's designated area of need. So what we were trying to do was do more impactful things than just the same thing, which is paving a street and then just using it as a fund. So initially what we did was, last year we talked about and said, okay, listen, while $400,000 a year, which is just say roughly our annual allocation, that's great. We can put that together and we may be able to do a little bit more impactful projects if we had a combined amount of money to do a little bit more. If it's a complete street, if it's the park. One of the things we were looking at is using this for Vale Park, just taking that money and making it a larger pot to do more with. However, all of that was supposed to have been bid and worked on in March and April when we put our paving bid out. So now what we are is just behind the ball. And so we're trying to catch up. We're trying to get, some money going and doing it in an efficient way. So I just wanted to explain how we get to this point. It's just, we're really trying to use the money in the best way and be strategizing with it.
Yeah, again, like you mentioned, with the price of oil being so low, I think it's really an opportune time to get as much paving done through CDBG funding or whatever funding we have available. And I'm supporting that 100%, Chris, no doubt about that. Any other comments or questions?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kosher, I wasn't done yet.
I'm sorry, yes, I'm back to you. I've got Ms. Crosby, go ahead.
I just struggle with the fact that we have some residents paying for sidewalks and others getting sidewalks at no cost. I really, really struggle with that. I mean, I'm all for improving areas, but this whole sidewalk program has been such a debacle. And then on top of all of this, we're going to then give free sidewalks to another street. I think it just adds to the insult of this whole program. So I commend your plan, Mr. Wallen. I just think that the backlash on our residents is just unfair, but that's just my opinion.
So Mr. Kosher, we're asking, we put this on hold for 2 weeks and we're asking for a detail of all the unspent CDBG funding to be provided to us at our next committee meeting. Is that clear?
John, I don't know if I agree with you on that. I think really, as Chris was saying, to get this thing bid out right now, with the price of oil being so low, the CDBG additional funding, I think, is a different conversation. And I think really doesn't affect us unless somebody else has different thinking on us than what I have. But anybody else?
Touching, if I may, touching on Ms. Perazzo's points, I mean, those are some valid points. I mean, we are charging people to redo their sidewalk, and in the same stroke of the pen, we're doing free sidewalk on the other side of town. Not saying I have anything against where it's being done, but we have to be very careful. Because those were the questions was posed to us when we did the camp. People were asking, why do I have to pay for my sidewalk when other side of the town are getting free sidewalk? And we're going back in the same direction here to answer these questions. And these questions are being posed to the city council. And when the residents are calling the mayor's office or another department, these staff and the mayor's office are not answering these questions. They are directing the questions to the city council. And we have to answer them.
Chris, if I can again, just go back. Was this already awarded? I mean, your first sign here, Schenectady bid and awarded this paving project. So are we back to where we were last with the the other two streets? This has already been bid out, right? Am I correct?
No, this is, what this is a change order to an existing contract that we're looking at. Nothing's signed, nothing's authorized, nothing's anywhere. So the contractor, we still have an open contract with an open purchase order, and we were looking to add some work to it to complete some of the goals and objectives in the city's, neighborhood revitalization strategy plan. So, I mean, I guess what it's sounding like to me is that I'll have to, talk with development, and we'll have to get on the same page with the council and the mayor, whoever needs to be, about what we do. So,
Mr. Kosher?
Yes, ma'am.
Two things, Mr. Wallen. I thought I understood you to say that we were holding on paving until later in the season. Did I misunderstand you?
no, what I was getting at was, we'll have some extra money, the CHIPS money like that you've seen. We're not going to be doing, this is a very unique year. We're not going to be doing a paving program like we have. If you recall, we don't have any borrowed money. That's usually $2 million. So we really have less money than we usually have to bid. And I have less time than I usually have because of a myriad of reasons. So we're looking to do a larger paving thing in the late summer, early fall. And this is just mostly curb sidewalks and around Jerry Burrell Park, Lincoln, and then we pave just to make the street look okay, but a very minimal amount of it.
Right, so it's not about the price of oil with this one.
Not really. I'm just pointing out what I'm trying to do is get ahead of you guys in a way, because if I say that I'm paving the street and you say, well, Chris, oil is so cheap right now, we got to do bids, but bids equal more work. Everything equals more work. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to make everybody happy here.
Yep, just one other thing. When you say Jerry Burrell Park, are you talking about sidewalks all the way around Jerry Burrell Park? Because that is Park City land, right? So if we were going to do sidewalks around Jerry Burrell Park, I'm in complete support of that, because then we're improving the surroundings of the park, and it's a city responsibility. So in your plan, are all the sidewalks being repaired and upgraded, or just some of them, or
The Jerry Burrell portion would be all.
Okay, so that's already part of the plan.
It would be,
Okay.
but that's up to you guys.
That I'm in total support of. I just think it's the inequity of making some people pay and go through hardship to boot, and then giving others sidewalks for free is what I'm really struggling with.
Yeah, so Ms. Rossel's point, so Chris, all we're talking about is the sidewalks around the park, not on the streets, not on Schenectady Street itself. It would be on our city park property that we're talking about sidewalks.
No, he was talking about residential sidewalks on Lincoln Avenue.
Yeah, Lincoln is away from the park.
Mr. Kosher?
Go ahead, Ms. Patrick.
Well, then, I guess, would we need to split this up then and just do Jerry Burrell? And also, my second question is, the sidewalks that are involved on Lincoln, isn't that because, I guess what I'm hearing from both Ms. Diot and Mr. Wallen is that that's part of that whole NRSA thing. And so, right? That's different than the usual sidewalk program.
That's correct. And it's just off of Craig Street, which is part of the Craig Main connection. And so the idea is to increase the pedestrian walkability between things like the elementary school, Craig Street, and the other, public services that are in that neighborhood.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
That's right, Martin Luther King is right down the road from them. The school. All right, folks, what are we looking to do here? John, Mr. Motivary, want to pull this for 2 weeks? Anybody else with any feedback here?
Ms. Porterfield had a question that she typed in.
Yeah, I was going to ask Ms. Porterfield ask a question.
Yeah,
If I may, Mr. Kosher.
hold on. So, Mary and Ms. Porterfield had a question here. Isn't this the same contractor we had problems with on the first sidewalk program? Chris, is that correct? Lucy, this is the same group, correct?
This is not Ardsley Road. Ardsley Road was Callanan. In my mind, that's the first sidewalk program. This is DeCamp. And the only issue with the DeCamp sidewalk program that I'm aware of was that we had a lot of back and forth that was on our end, not on their end.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. Ms. Porterfield answered your question, I believe. Somebody else chimed in for comments. Who was it? I missed it.
It was me.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
So getting back to my point, I mean, it's like, I don't think there's any rush to do it, but it's just what we want to get the information, in terms of how much unspent money we have available, not what is the intention of these money as we move forward. Instead of piecemealing it, we should get a detailed plan of all the available funds and what the intention is. And I will respectfully ask that you put this on hold for 2 weeks and we get those information and we bring this back. I think it's a good program. I want to commend with Mr. Walling for, moving forward with the sidewalk program around the city. But we need to equip ourselves with better information.
Okay, with all the other...
How these spending are going to occur.
Mhm.
Because we're going to end up having a $350,000 here allocation, and then come next 2 weeks, we're going to see another resolution in front of us for another amount.
Right, and then Ms. Porterfield, another chat here. Are there some parts of Schenectady Street that will not be done? Chris, would you have any comment on that?
Yeah, well, the majority of Schenectady Street would not be done.
Right.
Because we're talking about around Jerry Burrell, and then if we were to pave, it would be from Albany to Hamilton, which is the section that is mostly Jerry Burrell.
But mostly Jerry, and are there sidewalks on both sides of that street, Chris?
The other side of the street is in decent condition because there are quite a few Habitat homes.
Right, and they were all redone.
In the Habitat homes, they did a good job with sidewalks and things like that.
Yeah, because we're doing masks over there. I remember most of those houses are in pretty nice shape too, if I recall. All right, so anybody want to chime in, support Mr. Motivaran to hold this for 2 weeks, or what are we thinking, folks? Should we just take a little poll here? Ms. Patrick, what do you feel? Hello?
Sorry about that. I was still muted. Ms. Porterfield just asked another question
Oh my goodness, where is she here?
over on chat.
And Mr. Kosha, before you go, you see, that's the reason why it's unfortunate that Ms. Porterfield doesn't have audio, and she has lots of questions.
Oh,
You should give her an opportunity because, she's typing away, and I'm pretty sure she's going to have more questions if her audio is working properly.
Yeah, so and I kind of agree.
It is not about moving this forward. It's about asking the right question, getting the right information, and let's
Getting all the answers.
with a total agreement.
Yeah, and some kind of a layout too, some kind of a map draw, so we could see physically as well. I agree with Mr. Multivaran on that. But Ms. Patrick, what's your feelings? I'm sorry, I did cut you off. My apologies.
No, I was just calling to attention Ms. Porterfield's question.
Oh, okay. All right. So are you okay with holding this for 2 weeks then? Ms. Patrick and Mr. Palmetti?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
Carmel. All right, so I need a motion. Ms. Patrick made a motion to table this for 2 weeks.
I second it.
Mr. Palmetti, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. We're going to hold that. All right. Where are we at? Number 4, discussion and call for a public hearing amending the city code 248-18 to allow Sunday traffic modification on Ostrander Place from Chrysler Avenue to Crane Street. Mr. Motivaran, and again, he did bring that up. Thank you for doing that, sir. It's on our screen. So John, go ahead, sir.
So this was forwarded to us from the mayor's office. A request was made from the Pastor Roberts at the Faith Deliverance Tabernacle. Every year during the summer months, they had requested that the street be closed at a certain point in time to accommodate the traffic and the patrons. What is happening now because of the church and the attendance? They are getting a lot of attendance, and they are requesting from the city council the approval to make Ostrander between Chrysler and Crane Street a one-way traffic between the hours of 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on every Sundays to help them with the control of the traffic and in terms of the people who are attending the services at the church.
Okay.
So what is being proposed here is a discussion, and then we have to call for a public hearing.
Correct. Andrew Colden, Andrew, can you chime in on this anywhere, sir? Are you there?
I'm here. What exactly what questions do you have on this? Sorry.
What do we have to follow? Are we in good shape? Just call for the public hearing, Andrew? What do we have to do on all this, sir?
Thank you. Our city code provides for those streets that are one-way. As it stands right now, there are no streets in the city of Schenectady that are one-way only for some time. But you would have to have a call for a public hearing to authorize any one-way streets. That's essentially what would happen. I know that there was some question from a practical standpoint about any type of traffic study, because I believe that is a connector. I don't know what it's like on Sundays from 9:30 to 12:30, obviously. But you would have to do a call for a public hearing in any event.
Mr.
Okay.
Coach,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
is this, they want to do this permanently? They permanently want to have a sign up that states they're going to make it one way?
Yes, that is my understanding. They're requesting that to make it a one-way between 9:30 and 12:30 every Sunday.
Yeah, and Ms. Porterfield just chimed in. We have done this on other streets. It used to be done on Strong Street, and I do agree with that. I believe Wendell Avenue has a one-way portion as well for the church on that corner. I remember the sign up there all the time. There's another
Mr. Kosher, we also have a one-way for on Sundays for between 7th and 8th Avenue for the Mount Carmel.
Yes, yeah, and
From 9 to 1 every Sunday.
Yeah, so I know
It's a one-way.
this is not new, so I know we've had it before.
Yeah.
So right now, we're just trying to say whether we want to have a public hearing?
Yes, for discussion and call for the public hearing is what we're gonna do. Is that okay with, any other discussion on this?
I'll move it.
Nope.
I'll second.
And second by Carmel. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. We're gonna call for that public hearing then. Thank you very much. Andrew, thank you as well. I think I got you up on this next one here too, sir. Discussion and call for the public hearing to amend the city code 248, Andrew.
Yep, thank you very much, Mr. Kosher. So obviously, I think a lot of you may have seen the signs around the city about the app-based parking that the city is rolling out with passport parking. One of the things that we have to do with that we're seeking to do with that, is obviously to update the city code to reflect this new method of payment. The city has gotten rid of all of the single pay meters, and right now on the streets we only have the kiosks, and then obviously there are the signs which say you can pay by app. In order to accomplish these changes, we're seeking to have a call for a public hearing to amend City Code Section 248. I have worked on a draft. I've talked to the mayor's office and Mr. Wallen and the traffic people over at the police department to get their input, obviously, before we bring anything to the council. We generally have a draft taken care of. Obviously, though, we need to call for a public hearing in order to move this forward.
Okay, any discussion on this? Nope, seeing none, hearing none, actually. Need a motion?
Moved.
Second by Ms. Patrick? Yes?
Yes. I'm sorry, I was muted
There
again.
you go.
Sorry, yes, second.
Gonna keep you on your toes there. All in favor, say aye.
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 Very good, thank you. Anything else to come before public service and utilities?
Motion to adjourn.
And motion by Ms. Palmetti, second by Ms. Patrick, correct?
Yes.
There you go. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. We're adjourned. And one more committee I have here, I call to order the Administrative Efficiency Committee. And we have one item on here discussing amending the Chapter 6 of the Code of the City of Schenectady regarding affirmative action. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Motivaran first, and then we have Mr. Gardner, I believe, on the line as well. So, John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kosher. Yes. So last week we were able to get to a finalized draft version of the proposal to amend Chapter 6 of the City Code with regards to the CDBG, the affirmative action section. I want to thank Mr. Gardner and Mr. Colden for working so hard to get us this version. We were back and forth, but hard work is going to pay off. So I don't want to steal a lot from Mr. Gardner. He has a lot of a summary he would like to present to us. So I will ask him to go ahead and present his summary, and then we can take it from there.
Mr. Gardner, go ahead, sir. Ron Gardner, are you on, sir? Mr. Gardner.
Ron, just check to make sure you're not on mute, please.
I don't see him on anything here. I'm looking at the panel here.
I see him on he's on the second page.
Yeah.
My people who are on the call right now. So
But there's no microphone or anything associated with him.
I see him on here twice, actually.
I do too. Well, guess what? We just saved 10 minutes. So, Mr. Mullivan, can you chime in there? Can you add in on anything here, my friend? What do you have that, Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, I was going to ask, let's see if we can get hold of Mr. Gardner. In the meantime, Mr. Colden is very knowledgeable of this document. If you don't mind, Mr. Colden, give us a summary.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mudaveran. Mr. Kosher, may I?
Sir, yes, of course.
Thank you. So we saw this really as a two-step process. First is amending Chapter 6 of the City Code related to affirmative action. So obviously that's obviously a call for a public hearing in order to make the change. The second part of this would be, I'm just scroll through my document here. Please bear with me just one moment. Is that there's going to be essentially a plan that is reviewed on an annual basis by the City Council and approved. So we have the administrative regulations and procedures. Every year, what we're providing for is a resolution where the council reviews the current regulations and procedures, and if necessary, make any necessary changes, and then approve it. We're looking to do that as part of, as I said, a two-pronged approach. The first approach would be to change the code to reflect that. The council is going to be doing this, so it would be a call for a public hearing. And then the second piece of this was actually to do a resolution approving this current year's plan and procedure.
Very good.
So obviously,
Mr. Gardner, Mr. Kosher, if you don't mind. Mr. Gardner, are you there?
Nope, I still don't see him with the microphone.
But as Mr. Colden mentioned, this is calling for a public hearing, and I'm sure my colleagues had an opportunity to go over this document. And if there is any comment, please let us know.
and if I may add very briefly, thank you, if I can.
Sir.
Thank you. The document that was sent out that's before you, at least on your screens, if you can see it, those are the administrative regulations and procedures. That's not actually going to be the changes to the code. The changes to that's essentially the bulk of what the procedure is going to be and the policies are, but the changes to the code are different in that it refers to the council reviewing and approving this document before you now. As I said, Mr. Mudaveran, Mr. Gardner, and I have worked on changing the language of the code. Obviously, that will get to the council before the public hearing, so you can obviously review it. Let us know what questions or changes may be necessary. I'll make sure that everything's final with Mr. Gardner and Mr. Mudaveran, and I intend to send this out to you before the end of the week so you can take a look at it.
Very good. And again, thank all three of you folks, and I know several of the council members have been involved as well. So thank you all for working on this. It's a very important document for the city of Schenectady, and I think we're moving in the right direction. And I know it's taken a little longer than some were talking about, but again, to be exact and to really get this correct, again, you guys have done a great job. So thank you very much on all that. So any other comments from the colleagues on this? Again, we're just calling for the public hearing on this. So if I may, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Karen, you're on this one.
Yes, I make a motion, we call for a public hearing.
There you go. Thank you, young lady. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And anything else to come before our committee?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Palmetti. Second by Ms. Karen ZW. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Call order to Finance Committee. The first item on the agenda is authorizing the fee waivers for exterior building permits. This is the annual thing that Mr. Mudavaren does. So, Mr. Mudavaren.
Thank you, Mr. Palomini. So this is our annual program that we have rolled out many years ago. In regards to residential properties. So this is another year that we intend to move forward with it. This year, few changes. The maximum permit value of $35,000. Last year we were carrying $25,000, but because of the increase in costs with regards to material and labor, and based on some feedback, I think it's wise that we up it to $35,000 maximum of all permits. And we're asking to continue to waive the application fee of $56 for all exterior work and the flat fee of $100 for roof permit. We're looking to begin this program July 20th through October 18th. Last year we started July 1st, but there were some setback in getting it on the agenda on time, so we're a couple of weeks behind, but we're pushing it out into October. It's a good program. We had many success in the years. Not last year. I had actually requested a report from the Code Enforcement Department. I have not received the last year breakdown. But prior year, we had give back to the community roughly about $21,000. And I'm sure last year will bring numbers close to that. People are getting aware of the program. They are buying into the program. And we just need to continue to give back up to our community so that people can enhance the exterior of the building, porch, fence, driveway, any exterior work that we can help our residents with. And I want to thank my colleagues for, putting their faith into the program. We have seen the success of this program, and I think with your support, we should continue this program.
Are there any questions?
I'd like to move it.
Mr. Mudavaren, you want to second it?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the call for a public hearing to amend the 2020 annual action plan. I believe the spreadsheet with the proposals were in the packet. Are there any questions or comments? All right, can I have a motion?
Mr. Palomini,
Yes.
if I may. So we're calling for a public hearing based on the majority of the council's proposed changes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is building trades collective bargaining agreement. I would think this will be Mr. Colden.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Palomini. So the city is looking to authorize through the council the trade unions contracts. So we have essentially two. It was two separate contracts, but they were both negotiated together. That's how we've typically handled these. There's one with the Carpenters Union, the North Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. The other union agreement is with DC9 Painters, Bricklayers, LU2, and Plumbers, LU7. As I mentioned, we negotiated these together. Essentially, I'm going to just kind of go through, for the sake of expediency, the major changes in the agreements. I believe both draft agreements were circulated. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So the significant changes. So the old union contracts here expired on December 31st, 2019. These two agreements will be from January 1st, 2020 through December 31, 2023. The major changes are there's a 20% copay assistance program that will be new. There's the New York State paid family leave, which I know the council has previously been briefed on that program generally. Number 3, there are pay increases of 2% per year, as well as a signing bonus of $500 for each 2020 and 2021. There is a longevity service pay increase of 2% per year. And then there's bereavement leave, which is a limitation of 2 days total per year for quote-unquote other funerals. I'm more than happy to address any of your questions. In terms of any financial impact and concerns, Mr. Ferrari is also on the call right now to address your questions.
Are there any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Palomini.
Go ahead.
The New York State paid family leave, is that being instituted as a benefit and the city is going to be paying that, or is it being instituted as a benefit to the contract and the employee is going to be paying for it?
I didn't catch the first part. Was that the New York State paid family leave?
Correct.
That is a benefit that I think the city covers that. Anthony, can you address that?
Yes, that's the same benefit that the managers have received, and I believe the individuals will pay for it, but I think it's at a minimum. I think it's like $1.78 per month or whatever it is.
It's per pay period, Anthony.
What they've seen, what has happened, and the reason I'm asking is it has doubled and tripled over the number of years because the fund can't support itself. So where it started out being 60 cents a day, it's now, far more than that. And so although I certainly want our union personnel to have that benefit, to sign up for the city cost, I just think we need to be realistic about what that might look like in the budget going forward. How many employees total are in the 2 unions?
8.
Oh, so it's small. So that's fine. And I'm certainly support benefits for our employees. But could you just give us before next Monday some confirmation on whether the city's paying for it or the employee is paying for it?
The employees are paying for it.
Okay, great. Then it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, Mr. Palmetti?
Go ahead, Mr. Kozer.
Yeah, and that is correct, Ms. Ferrazzi. I understand this is your job at Proctor, so you should be very familiar with this. There is no cost to the employer. It's all paid by the employees.
No,
There's absolutely no cost.
That's not correct.
That is absolutely correct, and you know that, and I know it. I will send you the link as soon as we get off of this. There is no cost to the city other than the initial setting up the payroll and giving them those employees' names and numbers for the payroll, and there is no cost to the employer for this program.
Mr. Kozer,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
employer has that choice. The employer has a choice to cover it for the employees. So what I was asking, because this is our first union contract that we're having this in, and it's a wonderful benefit to offer our employees, and I was in full support of it. But what I was asking is, does the contract language say that the city is paying for it or the employee is paying for it? Because the employers do pay for it if they so choose. But yes, in this case, it sounds like the contract language has the employee paying for it. But you're right, it is my job, and I do know the intricacies of it, and that's why I was asking for that clarification. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All right, so then I will take a motion first on the building trades collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now
Aye.
on the carpenters agreement.
So moved.
No.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Parliament, before you proceed, I just want to bring to your attention on the finance. It's not on the agenda. We're not asking for anything to be acted on. This afternoon, I spoke with our county attorney, Mr. Gardner, and they are proceeding to, this week or early next week to move ahead to waive the interest and penalty on another quarter of taxes. And they were asking us if we're going to do it again. I don't know if they're going to pass it out this week of committee, but I just want to bring it to the attention. I might ask for unanimous consent for this to be placed next week, Monday. I don't know, but I will keep the council informed. And if there's support for it, we're more than glad to have it and to move forward and to continue to benefit the residents and business who are affected by COVID-19.
Okay, thank you. So there was a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Miss Patrick.
I was still on mute. Sorry. I was actually looking to call the Health and Recreation Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is a discussion of maintenance on the A Diamond. Mr. Palmeni, would you like to talk about that?
Sure. I was just, I'm not sure there's anybody on the call that could answer this, but with the field not being in use as of yet, I was just thinking it would be a perfect opportunity to, we supposedly have the machine that redistributes the pellets within the artificial turf, to see if we actually were doing that and using the machine so we can keep the field up to standard. And I'm not sure there's anybody left on the call to answer that.
John, I know for a fact that we only done it one time, as far as I know, during the season. The fluffer, they took the fluffer out there and they fluffed it.
Right. So
I don't know if they done it again since then. That was in early May.
You froze. I didn't hear the last part.
It was early May. Last week.
2020?
Yes.
Oh, well then that's not that long ago. So
Yeah.
that's good news that they're actually using the equipment. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, then I'm going to move to the second one, which is about Premier Upstate Baseball. And Mr. Palmeni, you're up again.
Yes, it's come to our attention that this is an organization that I want to say, I'm trying to bring up the resolution. In 2015, we passed a resolution as a city council to allow Upstate Premier the ability to use Bellevue Little League. If you recall, everyone was pretty excited about that. And then they used the field, I think, maybe once and kind of left everything high and dry. I even think, if I recall well, that there were funds that were set aside to be used to help with the field. Thank you to Mr. Ferrari. He checked and saw that no funds were actually used with that field, given the situation that they left so quickly. But it's come to my attention that they are trying and using the Schenectady Little League field. That's the one on Oregon Avenue, and we don't have a contract with them. B, our contracts with Schenectady Little League, which I have no issue with. And C, these are people in a group that basically left us high and dry. It's my, opinion that we really shouldn't be allowing them to use any field in the city, given what they did with Bellevue. It's on their website, and that they're planning on using the field. I just wanted to call everybody's attention to it. Mr. Colden is looking into the matter. I don't know if he has any updates, but certainly I think this is something that we should all be aware of, given the history with the Bellevue Little League.
John, what group came in and asked to use the Schenectady field on the Schenectady field in Mount Pleasant? That wasn't Premier, was it?
No, that's Schenectady Blue Jays. It's a different group altogether.
Oh, okay, very good.
The Premier Upstate, as far as I can gather, they seem to be running out of either playing games out in Boston Spa, Burnt Hills, that area. I'm not sure there's any Schenectady kids, in fact. But this is something. I mean, they left that field, and we all had high hopes, and really, it wasn't right what they did.
Ms.
John,
Patrick.
yes, I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Palmini. What would be the next step? I mean, how do we, Mr. Colden, I don't think is still on the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't leave.
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, sorry.
I pretty much stay in my office all day and all night.
Mr. Colden's looking into the contract with Schenectady Little League to make sure there's no ability for them to for Upstate Premier to use the field, and seeing what we can do to make sure Premier Upstate doesn't have access to city fields.
Ms. Patrick.
Okay, so I think that was just discussion, so we'll move on to.
Ms.
You have a
Patrick.
question? You have a question?
I have a question.
Sorry.
So, we do, if Ms. Coley is looking to see if we have a contract with them. And if we do have a contract with them, and based on the history and what is happening right now, can we revoke that contract and notify them via letter? So can we pass something here tonight to authorize Mr. Colden to proceed with that on the basis of him getting hold of the contract and just sending out a letter to them?
Well, we don't have a contract with Upstate Premier. The contract's with Schenectady Little League. So we would have to ask Schenectady Little League to stop letting them use the field.
May I be heard for a moment, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just to piggyback off what Mr. Palomini said. What I'm doing is we're obviously looking into the lease that we have, or the license agreement that we have with Schenectady Little League for the use of those fields over at Route 7 Oregon Avenue. One of the issues is it's an older agreement, so it's taking us some time to locate it. That being said, the plan is, unless there's some authorization in that agreement to allow them to sublease or sublicense the field, which I don't believe there is, I would send a cease and desist letter to them to tell them what they're doing is in violation of our agreement. And if we so choose, the mayor, as far as I can tell from looking at the agreement, prior agreements, would have the authority to terminate that agreement. He wouldn't need council approval. Since the council authorized him to enter into that agreement, he would also be authorized to terminate that agreement.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions or concerns on that item?
Ms. Patrick, I would ask Mr. Palomini, can we have this back in 2 weeks just for a follow-up to make sure something's happening?
Yes, I'll be in contact with Mr. Colden, as I'm sure he's thrilled about, but we'll be in contact.
Yes. And if I may ask Ms. Michael to just keep this on the agenda in 2 weeks?
That was for Ms. Maiko?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 3 is about cooling options for summer. Ms. Perazzo?
Yes, I know that all our pools are closed, and that's certainly a good thing. I mean, it's not a good thing, but it's a safe thing, right?
Yeah.
And we do have some splash pads opening. But a constituent was walking through Central Park the other day and said, we have this massive expanse of Central Park pool, this basin, with this fire hydrant that we use to fill the pool on a regular basis. And could there be some sort of maybe a sprinkler system or something set up for children to be able to cool themselves and families to be able to cool themselves? I think we're all concerned. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I can't imagine that others aren't concerned about how terribly hot it's been, and the fact that a lot of our residents live without air conditioning and no way to cool down. Cooling centers right now aren't open because of social distancing. And unfortunately, the mayor is not on the call this evening because it really is a discussion to have with the mayor, and I will have it offline, but I prefer always to discuss things in public. but can we set up some sort of a sprinkler, social distancing sprinkler system, something like a makeshift splash pad in Central Park, to help, in refreshing our citizens and our residents. And if anybody else on the council has an idea, that would be wonderful too. It's just, I would love to see a way, that both kids could have some fun and cool down at the same time, because I'm just so concerned about the impact in this heat,
Ms. Patrick?
Yes, Ms.
So,
Yes.
Ms. Perazzo, I totally agree with you, but the splash pads, they are set up, and I believe that water is recycled. It's not something that's going to end up in the sewer. I know we've had some rain lately, but I know we are going to be going into some dry periods, and I'd be concerned about having a sprinkler run and wasting water. I'm not sure we would be able to logistically do something like that in Central Park. And I don't know if, I don't want to squash your idea, because I actually think it's a pretty good one, but I would be concerned from a logistics standpoint of wasting water, and not having it recycled like we do on our splash pads.
Yeah, well, certainly it would be weather dependent. If we go into another dry spell, it's one thing, but no one can possibly predict that. But just, again, conversation that really has to include the mayor. So maybe we can talk about it again in a couple of weeks.
Okay, I think, because I'm on the same page as you, that we do need to figure something out for our youth, but just looking at all the regulations around swimming pools and any kind of public source of water for this season because of COVID, there are a lot of, we really would have to have a strong plan in place to ensure safety of the children, as well as no spreading of the disease. So what would be our next step in terms of having, just put it on for discussion again in 2 weeks, and in the meantime, follow up?
Yeah, I think we need the mayor, definitely. But, when you talk about safety, this same constituent saw kids swimming in the duck pond. Right. So, I mean, that, and if you want to talk about safety, that's really a concern to me, a great concern to me. And so, I mean, I don't know that we can come up with something. I don't, but I sure would like to put our collective heads together and see if maybe we may be able to. So I think, but the mayor is an integral part of the conversation. So.
Okay, well, I agree with you on opening this discussion. So, okay, so we can approach the mayor with this.
Yeah, and if I may, we'll have it back on the agenda for discussion in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.
You too. Thank you.
Good night.
It's over?